Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kate Ertman. I'm the president of the Rotary Club of Portland. Welcome to our online video weekly membership meeting. Now, you may have noticed that I've been kicking off these online meetings with Rotary news from outside of our club. A lot of this information drops straight into my email, and as others can tell you, once you're in Rotary leadership of any sort, you are added to a ton of Rotary email lists. And they are chock full of Rotary-related information that is close to home as well as from around the world. As many of us are tethered to our phones and our computers these days, whether we like it or not, it is an effective tool for staying connected and receiving news and information that's up to date. So here are some various resources that are from all different types of Rotary-related information. There is the Service in Action blog that has a ton of great resources, best practices, and success stories for planning effective service projects. Secondly, and maybe a little more readily known, is the Rotary Voices blog. That has features and stories that are written by and about Rotarians worldwide, and it's in their own words. Of course, there's Rotary.org, which is Rotary International's home base for news, communication to its 1.2 million members like you. There are tons of information there on everything from Rotary's history to the Rotary Foundation, other RI managed programs, causes like ending polio, and of course, right now, the current disaster response and the Disaster Response Fund. Now, if you'd like to understand what is going on specifically in the Rotary District, District 5100, which we are a part of with about 70 other clubs in the area, and you can find out specific information that is going on with the district, who the leadership is, and any activities and work that the district itself is doing with bringing all the clubs together. And then lastly, of course, our own club website, which is newly refreshed, newly updated. Thank you, Siobhan. rotarypdx.org, and that you can get some club specific news and click around. There's some new stuff in there, and I would welcome your feedback on how it's looking to you. All right, that's enough things to look at. Now let's move on. Please welcome Rotarian Patsy Feeman to give this week's reflection.
Thanks, Kate. In honor of our Peace Builders Month, I'm going to do a reflection on building peace. In these uncharted COVID-19 times of unrest and uncertainty, it's even more critical to look at how do we build peace within ourselves, within our families and communities, and in the world. It reminds me of that saying that's been around for many years, says, think globally, act locally. Rotary certainly does more than think globally. We act and impact globally, as well as we impact our local communities. This reflection is more on locally, as in each of us. The Dalai Lama has said, peace starts within each one of us. When we have inner peace, we can be at peace with those around us. I'd say that's easier said than done. To create these moments of peace, we have to notice when we're being pulled off our center by kids working remotely, being online, not sure what our future holds. And these tugging moments that tug at our thoughts and emotions, it's important to recognize that we are being knocked off our center. We have to actually stop and acknowledge what our minds and our emotions are wanting to sweep us away with. We have to actually accept our current situation, even in these trying times. And we have to come back to be present with ourselves. Some people do this by noticing their breath, others by taking a walk or listening to music, while others have a thoughtful, mindful practice. The point is to turn off your phone. The point is decide to be with yourself and not your reaction to the circumstances around you. When we start to create moments of peace within ourselves, we actually have a greater capacity to truly listen to others, to be able to acknowledge our differences and to reach a deeper place of understanding. This is the place of well-being. This is the place where problems can be solved both locally as well as globally. John F. Kennedy said, peace is a daily, a weekly, a monthly process. Gradually changing opinions slowly erodes old barriers. quietly building new structures. So in this Peace Builders Month, I invite you to notice those moments of unrest within yourself and to stop and create a moment of calm with the intention of building more moments of peace within yourself and the lives of those around you. This is how we build peace, one person, one situation at a time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patsy. I really welcome a moment to be reminded about pausing. Pausing can really help when you're moving really, really fast trying to figure things out. So thank you for that reminder. I would now like to welcome any virtual guests that we might have today. Thank you for tuning into our weekly membership meeting. And I would also like to extend a happy anniversary to everyone who became a Rotarian in the month of May. You can see the membership May anniversary list in the email that was sent along with this very video, or you can go to our website, our new website, and under the header of membership, you can click on through and see these May anniversaries. So as always, my fellow Rotarians, please make the effort to reach out to those that are celebrating their anniversary this month. It's a great excuse if you are trying to figure out who's the Rotarian that you're going to reach out to this week, that you're going to get to know, check in with. Pick one from the May anniversary list. And when you do that, you will also have the opportunity to thank them for these many years of service above self. So as Patsy mentioned earlier, each month we highlight one of our committees. And for the month of May, it is our Peace Builders Committee. So please welcome Rotarian Harry Anastasiou to tell you about one of their current projects.
Greetings, fellow Rotarians. It's nice to be with you again, even though virtually, with all the deficiencies and the advantages that that entails. In the same spirit that Patsy shared today in her reflection, I would like to share one project that our committee has been working on. It focuses on Cyprus. Some of you may be wondering why Cyprus? Well, there are two Rotarians in our club that actually come from Cyprus. One is myself, and the other is Birol Yeşilada. I should also mention that each of us comes from the rival community of the other. But over the years, as Rotarians, we have been working together on a variety of projects promoting the peace process in Cyprus, again, on multiple levels. You may all have heard about the Cyprus Friendship Program that flies over to the States, young people from the two communities, engaging with them and building bridges at that level. We also had a number of projects in the past at a much higher level involving political leaders and influential citizens. The latest project we have been working on has two phases. One was called the Cyprus Peace Education Project that we ran about a year and a half ago. It actually focused on how the conflict in Cyprus has shaped the educational systems in the respective communities, and how the educational systems have become catalytic of the conflict, because the conflict has been assimilated into the educational system. And of course, the concern here, as efforts are ongoing to resolve the conflict, is how to prepare younger people for the day of peace and reconciliation. So this has been one project. As a follow-up of this project, I visited Cyprus last fall and had a number of discussions with peace-building leaders on the ground. We had a meeting in the buffer zone, and we did a review of peace-building efforts at multiple levels and how Rotary could help push the process to the next level. And the request that came from these peace builders is for Rotary to help them create a more coordinated effort that can bring together the multiple peace builder groups, which are all bicommunal, involving Greeks and Turks jointly, but how to bring these multiple groups that over the years have worked across purposes. A number of them don't know of each other's work, but how we could provide an organizational framework that can create a consortium of peace building groups in order to raise the capacity of peace builders in the divided island, and to also foster more targeted approaches to promoting peace, be it in the media or by contacting political parties, by recommending positions and approaches and strategies. Now, the current situation in Cyprus right now is in a state of numbness because of the coronavirus, as you know. They have imposed a very strict lockdown on both sides, practically. But the greatest drawback to the project is that the crossings along the ceasefire line, which separates the two sides, have closed. So there is no contact right now between Greeks and Turks until we get through this period with the pandemic. But as soon as that happens, we will be ready to proceed. We already had some support from various clubs by way of raising funds. Our Portland club has contributed, West Lynn has contributed, and the Vancouver club has contributed. We aspire to raise at least $30,000 so as to qualify for a global grant. So in that regard, I make an appeal to those of you here who may have some change left over to think of the Cyprus Peace Building project by way of a modest contribution. So this is all for now, but I'm open if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you very much for giving us that update. And you heard him. If you would like to attend a Peace Builder committee meeting, or if you have some extra change in your pocket, please reach out to Harry, and I'm sure he can help you out with that. All right, now we're going to welcome Andrea Claypool, who is the Development Associate for DePaul Treatment Centers. And Andrea is here today to tell us about a grant that they had received from our Community Grants Committee. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to share my screen real quick. There we go. All right, you can see the presentation? Perfect. Okay, so thank you. Again, my name is Andrea, and I work at DePaul Treatment Centers. This past year, we received a grant from the Portland Rotary Charitable Trust to support a new van for our youth program. So I'm just going to tell you guys a bit about DePaul and our work. If I can get the screen to change. There we go. So DePaul's mission is to work with individuals, families, and communities to create freedom from addiction. We provide evidence-based treatment services for substance use and co-occurring mental health disorders for both adults and youth. And we've helped more than 40,000 people reclaim their lives from addiction. DePaul believes that addiction is a treatable chronic disease, like many other diseases, not a moral failing as is often treated by society. And we operate with the belief that all individuals have within them innate health and the capacity to recover from their addiction. DePaul has 3 locations in the Portland metro area. We have our outpatient services center in Hillsborough, our adult center in downtown Portland, and our youth and family center in Northeast Portland. At our Youth and Family Center, we provide evidence-based residential treatment for male-identified patients ages 13 to 17. The primary goal of our youth program is to stop addiction early and to prepare patients for successful long-term recovery. We use a holistic model that includes things like substance use and mental health counseling, family therapy, life skills building, relapse prevention planning, teaching healthy communication skills, and engaging in physical health and fitness activities, sober fun outings, and recovery community activities. Patients also participate in 4 hours of courses and curriculum daily that are required to get their high school diploma. The DePaul Alternative High School is accredited through the Portland Public School System. So we came to Rotary last year because we had a need for reliable transportation. Reliable transportation is truly essential to our ability to support and encourage positive youth development through providing access to sober, fun activities in the community and community-based recovery groups So we take our teens to places like Fourth Dimension Recovery. We participate in things like Walk for Recovery, various sporting events and activities, Timbers games, Trailblazers games. We often get tickets to those. Teens get to go to OMSI and to the library, movies, arcades, and more. We also need reliable transportation for the occasional ER visits or other medical appointments. So with Rotary's generosity, we've been able to purchase a 2017 Chevrolet 12-seat passenger van for our youth program. This van is a replacement for our previous van that was beyond the point of repair and hindering our ability to fulfill this aspect of our mission. So we went from this, which you can see is not something you'd want to be transporting teenagers in, to this, which is truly remarkable. So thanks to your support, our teens once again have access to the vital community services and recovery support that's external to DePaul that make this program so successful. And as you might have guessed, during this COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of these things are on hold for the moment, as with many other things, places are closed, but it's, everyone's been thrilled to have this new van, truly, truly thrilled. So thank you so much for this support. We're really, really grateful to all of you.
Well, thank you so much for being able to join us today and give a little breakdown of the effect that our Community Grants Committee has had on our community. So thank you again for being able to participate today. All right, next up, we have a new member. I love doing these. Now, my fellow Rotarians and honored guests, since we have a few here today, on behalf of the Rotary Club of Portland, it is my privilege to welcome a new member today. Please allow me to introduce and welcome Craig Vercruz. Craig, would you please provide a brief introduction to yourself to the club?
Sure thing, Kate. Thanks very much. I'm honored to be here. I'm a native Chicagoan and had some experience with Rotary, which I'll tell you about a little later on here. My family relocated to Portland less than a year ago. I have a wife of 21 years, Allison, and a almost 8-year-old son. And we just love living in Portland. We relocated from the Bay Area. And in my work, I work in healthcare. For the last 20 years, I've worked in healthcare, mainly in the healthcare delivery system as an administrator in San Francisco. And now I do consulting for the last 5 years. So I'm out there trying to help create a safer, more efficient healthcare system. And of course, now we have the global pandemic. So our teams are on the front lines trying to help with the emergency response and quickly adapting the processes of how we need to operate the healthcare system in this new environment and what it means going forward. I'm with Moss Adams. I'm a partner at Moss Adams, and I do have another role, and that is I'm on the philanthropic board for Moss Adams as well. So I've touched Rotary in many ways throughout my life, but I've never been a Rotarian, and that's what makes this very exciting for me. In high school, I was fortunate to get a scholarship to go to college from the local Rotary chapter in Elmhurst, Illinois. I chaired a board of a local YMCA dedicated outdoor and environmental education for kids in the Bay Area. And we were a community grant recipient from Rotary San Francisco numerous times. And then I have many international friends who their first exposure to America was as an international Rotary exchange student. And so I've touched it many times, and it seemed like the perfect place to put down my community service roots now that we're in Portland. So I'm honored to be here, and thank you, Kate, and thank you to the club. And I can't wait till we can meet in person.
Likewise, Craig. I love hearing the stories from new members because there's so many times that Rotary has touched their lives in some way. And that was a very perfect example of hearing how when you were really young and how you've kind of always kind of touched it here and there, or they've reached out to you, or you've participated in the many different ways that we can participate as Rotarians. So I'm very happy I get to welcome you as our new Rotarian. I do have a question. You wrote down on your application that you love to cook complicated dishes. And on here you said you attempted a cassoulet and some ramen. And how's that going? Is it a little too much now after 2 months? Are you still doing complicated dishes?
Well, yesterday was Mother's Day, so we had a you know, so myself and the 8-year-old, he likes to cook too. Geez, in a one weekend, we had a traditional Tokyo Izakaya night on Saturday night with all kinds of very interesting things, including my favorite Japanese pickles. And then yesterday, somehow we managed to do a Middle Eastern frittata and threw on a raspberry lemon curd sponge cake with Swiss meringue. And I'm like, how are we doing this? And really, this is my son going through cookbooks and saying, Daddy, let's do this. And me just going, let's just go for it. There's really not a lot of skill. There's usually a lot of luck, and I know how to read directions.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. I was half expecting you to say that for the first 4 weeks, yeah, complicated stuff. And then you're like, it's just too much. But I hope you continue this afterwards when you are able to go out and get food, that you're like, no, we're going to cook at home. So wonderful. I am excited to have you as a member, and I'm also very interested of which committees you're going to be reaching out to. I know you were interested in community grants, Meals on Wheels, International Service, Preserve Planet Earth. You're going to get to hear a bit about some of them a little bit later, but I let me know if you need any help in reaching out to finding out who is running some of these committees right now. Everybody's still meeting online, so you can get right into it before we all meet again in person.
Sounds good, Kate. Thanks very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Wait, now I need to do the official bit. So I want you to know that we believe that becoming a Rotarian, becoming a member of Rotary rather, reflects how you conduct your personal as well as your professional life. And we all share your drive to give back. And I'm looking forward to you using your skills and your talents to make a difference in our community, as well as to connect with your fellow Rotarians. So everyone here, please welcome your fellow Rotarian, the newest Rotarian in the world, Craig Burkruse.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Right? It feels a little better getting a little applause.
Well,
That's
yeah,
you
got the little applause emoji from Renee on there. This is great, you know, so little icons in Zoom we're using.
Perfect. See, we're all getting the hang of it. Of course, if we were in person right now, I'd be handing you your Rotary pin, but rest assured you will receive that when we all meet again in person. So, welcome again.
Thank you, Kate.
All righty, we are up to our chair of the day, and I would like to welcome past president and current assistant governor, Rotarian Chris Ackerman, as today's chair of the day.
Thank you, Kate. It's my pleasure to introduce Renee Campbell, who represents the Salem Rotary Club. The Salem Club is near and dear to me in that as a high school student, I was the Rotarian of the month during my senior year. That was my introduction to Rotary. Subsequent to that, my father became a member of the downtown Salem Rotary Club and was one of the old guys that sat in the corner table for many, many years. As you may know, we were founded 110 years ago as the 15th Rotary Club in the world, and were sponsored by the Seattle Club. Subsequently, we sponsored many Rotary clubs, one of which was the Salem Rotary Club, which is now celebrating its 100th anniversary. So today's program is a story of that 100 years of service in Salem, with a presentation on their signature project, which is one that will have a significant impact on the community of Salem on a long-term basis, and is part of an ongoing project that is totally reconfiguring how downtown Salem looks. As someone who grew up in Salem with the Boise Cascade paper mill sitting there and stinking up the environment, and also actively polluting the Willamette River for many years, I always love to go to Salem now and look at how different the waterfront is and think about the future and how that is being developed. And the Salem Rotary Club is all over it. So it's my pleasure to introduce Renee Campbell, past president of the Salem Rotary Club and past district governor of District 5100, who will lead this presentation by the Salem Rotary Club to tell their story. So with that, Renee, you're on.
Thank you, Chris. I'm going to share my screen here. Well, as Chris was telling you, Rotary started in Chicago in 1905. There were 4 members there who wanted some business associates that were of high ethical standards, but they also had the hope that they could turn some of those business acquaintances into friends. And it was an idea that took off so fast that within 5 years, it was necessary to add the word international to Rotary. And as Chris said, Seattle was sponsored by Chicago in 1909, and the next year, they sponsored you. See if we can advance this. We're not advancing. There we go. And we learned from your president, Kate, when she came to our birthday party, that it was in August of 1919 at the board meeting that your club decided that it was time to spread Rotary across Oregon. And within a year, you had sponsored 3 clubs, Salem, Pendleton, and Astoria. You went on to sponsor a total of 14 clubs, and all but 2 of those have sponsored other clubs. We knew we had some Portland Rotarians at our charter night, so we assumed that you were our sponsor, but we were having a hard time proving that through documentation. And about a year ago, I asked Danielle if Portland had sponsored Salem, and she said, "Of course we did." And she connected me with Al Jubitz, who connected me with Jana Cole, who shared with me the fabulous family tree that she had put together for your centennial 10 years ago. Then I was able to update it with the happenings of the last 10 years, and this is the result. You have so much to be proud of in the legacy of humanitarian service done by all of the 70 clubs in District 5100. So we're here to say thank you, to give a brief accounting of what we've been doing for the last 100 years, and let you know what we are up to commemorate that and what we are looking forward to. So in addition to our own work, we have sponsored 9 clubs. And as you can see from this excerpted Salem family tree, some of them have also sponsored other clubs for a total of 21 clubs in our family tree. And some have also sponsored Rotaract and Interact clubs. In a moment, you will hear from Steve Martin, one of our club historians, and he is the past president of the Rotary Club of Colorado Springs. And he'll share some of the highlights of our contributions to education, health, human services, and quality of life in our region and globally. Past President Barry Nelson and Ken Van Osdal took the lead 5 years ago, at least, in our exploration of what we should do to commemorate 100 years of service. As you know, having experienced it, that is a big deal. Well, the consensus was from our past presidents, let's go big. Let's make a visible, tangible statement, shine a light on Rotary, and give the region a gift of lasting value that everyone may enjoy. I also wanted to introduce you today to our president, our current president, Tammy Denny. She represents the Oregon dairy farmers before the legislature, and unfortunately for us, she has been called to a meeting with the governor, so won't be able to join us. So after you hear from Steve, Barry and Ken will catch us up on what that project, that centennial project, has become, the Jerry Frank Salem Rotary Amphitheater. Steve, take it away.
I'm Steve Martin, a member of the Rotary Club of Salem. 100 years ago, on February 18th, 1920, was the start of a 3-day auto show at the Salem Armory. Salem auto dealers were exhibiting all of the new automobile makes and models. 100 years ago, on that same date, the newly formed Rotary Club of Salem held its official charter celebration. Attendees at the celebration included representatives from your club, as your club was our sponsor, as you have just heard. But would it surprise you to learn that all of those cars that were featured at the auto show 100 years ago, all those cars advertised as cars of the future, that none of those automobile makes and models have survived the past 100 years. However, the Rotary Club of Salem has survived these past 100 years and outlasted all those cars. So our club became the club of the future. We've continued to thrive and give back to our community, to the state, and the world over these past 100 years. And our club is proud of our global and community Rotary contributions these past years. Let me give you a few examples. In our early years, we funded a room at the brand new Salem General Hospital. Over the years, we started 10 separate youth programs. During the war, we sponsored a Boy Scout troop, a Cub Scout pack, a Sea Scout troop, and an Air Scout troop. Our club members helped find jobs for boys released on parole from the state training school. And during World War II, Salem Rotarians in the service, wherever they may be stationed, received a copy of the weekly club bulletin. We funded a milk fund for underprivileged children at local elementary schools. Our club has sent care packages to needy families in Austria and shipped agricultural products to Rotary clubs in Japan. We sent American history and government books to Rotary clubs in the Philippines and to Rotary clubs in Greece. Our club raised significant donations required to build the A.C. Gilbert's Discovery Children's Museum in Salem's Riverfront Park. Our members have supported leprosy and medical teams in the Philippines and sponsored the Nepal Dental Project. One of our members was even instrumental in helping to form a new Rotary club in the Ukraine. In the era before cell phones, our club funded a free 24-hour voicemail service for Salem's homeless and needy population. When the 911 emergency call system was implemented in Marion County and way back in 1979, our club funded Call 911 stickers, which were placed on every household telephone in the county. On a larger scale, our club has undertaken numerous large community projects designed to serve its citizens for many years to come. One of these projects was the creation and funding of a large interactive playground in the middle of Riverfront Park. Another project was the funding and construction of an iconic covered Rotary picnic pavilion at one end of Salem's Riverfront Park. Our next upcoming large project, which will bookend at the other end of the park, will feature, well, you'll hear about that story from our next Rotarian. This has just been a few examples of the support our club members have provided locally and worldwide in the name of Rotary. So thank you, Rotary Club of Portland, for your sponsorship of our club 100 years ago. We hope that we have made you proud.
All right, well, who is up next?
Well, thank you, Steve. I think that's me. So Barry Nelson here, and as I work to share my screen with you, indeed, we are going to share with you about this incredibly exciting project that we have in the form of the Jerry Frank Salem Rotary Amphitheater here in Salem. Excited to share with you about that today. It was indeed 5 years ago, so late 2015, that I was settling in, a good 4 months into immediate past president role, and was getting bored, I suppose, and I suggested that we should do something bigger than usual for our centennial in 2020. And I asked Ken Van Osdal to chair that effort, and he turned me down, but he did say that he would help. And Ken did help by organizing, as Renee alluded to, a few brainstorming sessions of the past presidents of the club to talk about how big we want to go and brainstorm the needs of the community and what we could do. And we talked with leaders in the community. And it was actually our mayor at the time, Rotarian Anna Peterson, who suggested the current amphitheater in Riverfront Park is really inadequate, even to meet the current needs that it serves, and certainly not the future needs. And so after talking about that and exploring that further, indeed, our past presidents and our leadership said, yes, this is the project we'd like to take on, in part because this project has no locked doors. It's open to all who visit the park in this very public place and serves everyone in the region, regardless of their age or economic status. By the time we selected a project, Ken and I were gelling pretty well, and I was finally able to talk with him and say, you know, Ken, you're really acting as a co-chair of this project. Why don't you go ahead and take that title? And indeed, he agreed, and we haven't looked back. So, Ken, you want to talk to us about the name that we selected?
Yeah, so early, I enjoyed getting the title, but little did I know. Well, yeah, early on, I think we realized that really enduring pieces of architecture have their own stories to tell. And one of the stories that we wanted this place to tell was about a fellow who is our club's longest standing member, and really a great Rotarian who embodies that motto of service above self, and that was Jerry Frank. Jerry has touched literally thousands of lives over the last several decades through years and years of generous community service. And so we decided to name the amphitheater in honor of Jerry. Barry?
And Jerry's, of course, contributions to business and nonprofit organizations have likely touched the lives of every Oregonian, whether they know it or not. And this photo of Jerry happens to have been taken, gosh, it was probably a couple of years ago. So he would have been the young age of 94 at the time when we announced at our club meeting the naming in his honor. By late 2016, early 2017, we had met with city leadership, and they were excited to partner with us on this project. It being in a public park, city park, important that they were on board and partnering with us. And indeed, they are coming alongside of us to provide upgraded utilities and pathways and park lights and things that otherwise they would be doing in the park. But we recruited 3 Rotarian architects once we had selected an amphitheater as the project to design 5 concept designs that we then presented throughout the community. Probably about 50 different venues. We spoke with thousands of people from events in the park to neighborhood associations, the Salem Art Fair, the Chamber of Commerce, even a local retirement center. And this design that you see here rose to the top, not necessarily because it was everybody's favorite look, but Ken will share with you the story behind it.
Yeah, Barry's right. This was an interesting design. Some people thought it looked like Starship Enterprise, and it probably wasn't its curb appeal that captured people's interest, but it was the backstory. It was the backstory of the design. And that backstory was that early on in the design process, an architect from CB2 Architects in Salem was doing some background research on the site where the amphitheater will go. And he went out to the Grand Ronde Nation and visited their cultural center. In the process of doing that, he came across an open weave basket that the Kalapuya Indians, Native American Kalapuya, had once used for gathering nuts and shellfish and so on. And it was that design that intrigued him. And it was that design that inspired the current roof design. And it was that backstory of the connection with the Kalapuya that really captured the public's imagination and allowed us to move forward with that design.
So that cultural connection, again, is really what drew people to this particular design. And by late 2017, that sprawling initial concept that you saw had turned into this, something a little more organic, free-form, smaller in size, but striking in its architecture. And we had the honor of visiting the tribal council of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde to present this concept that was inspired by those open weave baskets of the Kalapuya and seek their nod of approval. And they absolutely loved the concept. They provided a letter of support, and one of the most profound statements we've had about the project came from that meeting. There's an artist on tribal council who said, "This will be one of the most significant pieces of architecture in the state of Oregon."
And I think, you know, this design, as you look at it, it was a little bit heavy. It looked a little bit bulky. And as a lot of things in this project have, there were several iterations of improvement and refinement and detail. And that earlier design you just saw now became this design. It's a lot more light. It's a lot more open and airy. And this is actually very, very close to what the final design will be.
Well, any project of this magnitude doesn't come without its opportunities, or what some people might refer to as problems or challenges. And indeed, we've had our fair share. And I like to say Ken had hair before we started this project. But in the spring of 2018, we ran into a biggie. And that is a state land use issue in the setback requirements for the Willamette Greenway. And on this slide, you see where the existing amphitheater is, and kind of in the lower left-hand corner of that is where the existing stage is. And the idea was to enlarge the stage and put a cover on it and largely leave the rest of the park untouched. Maybe expand the audience area a little bit, but be able to utilize that current space. The reality of the Willamette Greenway, after talking with land use officials and others, was that we simply couldn't build a structure in that location. We therefore worked with the city and land use attorneys to develop alternative solutions. And the gray area you see here is what Chris was referring to earlier in a former industrial site. And that had been slated to become part of Riverfront Park and happened to be on the city's agenda to update the master plan for the park. So we worked with them through that process, and in late 2018, a new master plan was adopted with a new amphitheater included, with the plan to repurpose the old amphitheater for other uses. It really turned out to be a blessing in disguise, as this will allow the Riverwalk Promenade to remain open during ticketed concerts. It will have enhanced views, and in the old location, production traffic had to drive through the entire park in order to serve the stage. And here in this aerial view, you can see that right off the parking lot, which will be an expanded parking lot with an entry plaza, the production traffic will now be localized and easy to serve the stage for those concerts and performances that occur. Ken, you want to talk about fundraising?
Yeah, after going through all that stuff that Barry just described, now really came the easy part, and that was raising $4 million. And it's interesting that as we went through this whole process, a number of people who were familiar with doing these kinds of things, you know, community said that will be the easy part. And indeed, our club and the community has really come through. We started with our club presidents, and I think they chipped in about $350,000. Our club in total has now contributed just over $950,000 just from our club alone. Some local philanthropists, namely Larry Tokarski, Gary Epping, have both given enormously generous gifts, along with Ken Austin. He's now deceased, but he was a well-known Rotarian in Oregon. Ken Austin made a large contribution. Oregon Community Foundation supplied us with a grant, along with Murdoch Charitable Trust. And the state of Oregon provided a grant of $1 million. We're still gathering in-kind contributions. In-kind from CB2 Architects has been significant. So today, for that $4 million goal, we're at 3.66.
So $340,000 away from that $4 million goal, and
Yeah.
we're pretty confident in those remaining amounts. So we're going to take you through the amphitheater at this point, and as you come around toward the back of the stage, off to the right here will be incredible views of the Willamette River, the slough, and a nature park across the slough. Here we're backstage, and you can see that this is going to be uplit, featuring that basket weave and the translucent roof that's kind of like a shade sail will be weather tight, but be able to absolutely glow at night with that uplighting, and also allow you to see the basket design there. This berm on the left will serve the purpose of hiding artist vehicles that might be back there during a concert, and also at the end of it is a mechanical room that takes the electrical equipment and things of that nature. And you might notice a familiar logo on the front of that mechanical room. And when I served as president in 2014-15, Rotary International President Gary Wong's theme for the year was Light Up Rotary. Rotarians, I find, are humble servants by nature. And with so much of what we do being behind the scenes, we really wanted to make a statement that Rotary is alive and well and a vital part of our community. And that Rotary logo there is going to be a stainless steel inset in concrete, about an 8 to 10 foot radius. So you see half of that, the other half folds onto the stage and will be the other 8 to 10 feet. Here's a nighttime rendering that you see, and throughout this process, we've picked up a lot of really good ideas along the way, and it was the enthusiasm of Al Jubitz that started a messaging conversation that remains ongoing at this point, but while that's yet to be refined, very appropriate for the day given the peace theme that we have going in this meeting, we envision the footings holding elegant messages of peace and community tied back to Rotary as well. So here we are, groundbreaking is scheduled for July of 2020, and we should be celebrating a grand opening in the summer of 2021. This will be not only an incredible concert venue and an iconic cultural landmark that pays tribute to the Kalapuya, and it is really much more than Salem. This is regional, this is an iconic landmark for the state of Oregon, but also a significant and lasting statement of Rotary's contributions to our community. You can contact us through rotaryamphitheater.com, and if you'd like to help bring this iconic Rotary landmark to reality, we certainly welcome your participation. Again, contact us through rotaryamphitheater.com.
And if anyone in the group has any questions, Barry can answer them.
Exactly. It's exactly what I was going to say. If anybody has any questions in this group, raise your hand and I guess Barry can answer them. Anyone have a question?
That's one word. Congratulations. This is an outstanding project. Well done. Exemplary of what Rotary stands for.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I agree. And I was actually really, my one question was going to be, where is the Rotary logo? How are you going to do it? How are you going to integrate it? And it's beautiful. It is beautiful how you did that. And now seeing this messaging in the footing there, even more beautiful. That's great. Oh, I actually, you know what? I am going to give you one really quick question. Another question, which is regarding the tribes that you have engaged with. How did that conversation, I guess, first come about when trying to decide just how you were going to be in partnership with them?
Yeah, so great question. And when we settled on a design of the Open Week basket and the inspiration behind this design being that we wanted to make sure that we were indeed honoring and not offending. And we recognize that we don't know what we don't know. And so it was through a contact that we had in Salem that we asked for an audience with or some form of communication with the tribes so that we could explore this together. And before we knew it, we had a presentation with the architects before Tribal Council at the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde. And we're presenting this and asking that question. Are we honoring, or is this something that they would support? And again, the answer was an enthusiastic yes, this is incredible, very appropriate to be at what was a former Native American gathering place, and to be again a gathering place in Salem's Riverfront Park, on the riverfront, where they used open weave baskets for gathering, and we all recognized together that we weren't going to build an upside down basket, but the inspiration behind it was indeed that Kalapuya basket.
I think another memory of that meeting, Barry, a couple of things. One was that one of the first questions that a council member asked, sitting around this large round table, she said, "So have you guys thought about asking the tribes for money?" And we said, "No, and that's not why we're here today. Maybe someday, but that's really not what we're about. We still haven't." And the other piece was that after our presentation, they had a full agenda of other business to take care of. And rather than simply dismissing it and saying, "Well, that's off our agenda, let's move on," I'll bet you they lingered for 15 minutes. People got up and talked with us individually, sort of interrupted their meeting as we were going out the door. It was a long goodbye. It really was. So I felt that we genuinely had a lot of interest and support from the council that day.
I have a quick question. Do you see as part of your messaging continuing to tell that story?
Which are
The Native American story, the fact they've been on the land, part of the, yeah. I would think that would be yeah.
That would be part of a narrative display that'll be sort of under the overlook there. And there will be some messaging about Rotary, and there will be some about Jerry Frank and his contributions.
Great.
And about the Native American Kalapuya who once lived on that site. It was a gathering place.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you all so much for coming. Renee, Steve, Barry, and Ken.
Thank you.
I also want to make sure I say to Steve, yes, I think I can speak for our whole club. We are very proud of what the Salem Club has done this past 100 years. I'm sure you only touched on the very top cream of the crop bits that you have worked on. And as we all know, being a Rotarian and the service work that we do, it's being there and seeing where we can give service every day, not just on the big projects, but where we can support our community as well as band together to support what we can in the world. So we're very proud of the Salem Club, and I'm very glad that you all were able to be here today to share all of this with us. And happy anniversary, happy birthday. Okay, to wrap things up here, next week, next week we actually don't know. It's gotten crazier with our keynote speakers because everybody wants to speak. So scheduling it is, we kind of get it in place a few days beforehand, but check your spokes on Friday. I'm sure it will be announced right there. If not sooner, you might see it on our site when it is posted. When it is booked, it will be posted on the site as well. So tune in again on Tuesday and you will see who the keynote speaker will be then. I want to thank all of our speakers that are here today, as well as thank our club's membership wherever it is that you may be viewing this meeting, and perhaps you're viewing it with family. And then they can not only understand what Rotary is, but what Rotary does in fellowship and in service. Also, just a couple of reminders. We have been having on and off some 10 a.m. coffee socials. So if you are interested in participating in that, it's one of the Zoom rooms much like this, but you should contact the office, and that you'll be able to get the information on how to participate in that if it's happening that day. Like I said, we're kind of shifting it back and forth, getting a feel of when people are free at 10 a.m. to participate and see how each other is doing. And then we're also on Thursday afternoons at 4 p.m. We are doing kind of a social, and when it's very kind of structured setup where we have a Rotarian of our club speak on something that they are an expert in for about 10-15 minutes, and then that opens up the floor and whoever is on the call can participate and ask questions and get some clearer information. So you'll be hearing soon who is this Thursday. I think it's Aaron Geelan, and he might be talking about his world of being in dentistry when all this is going on. So personally, I'll be there. I hope to see all of you there. And then lastly, we announced last Friday, we've started doing these videos, really short conversations. Committee quick chats is what we're calling it. And it is a chat between me and a representative from each of the committees. And each chat's about 5 minutes long. And we're getting an update on what these committees are doing during this time specifically. And also if they have any asks of any of you, where it could be just want more membership, or they might want an introduction to someone. You'll have to tune in and find out. We're going to post about a couple of them a week. So I hope you can get a chance to see that. Again, contact the office if you are not aware of how to get to our YouTube page, but that is where everything will be posted. Finally, as always, take care. Please take care of you. Take care of yours. Let's continue our service work so that when we say we are committed to service above self, it is more than just a motto. It is a Rotarian value to uphold. This meeting is now adjourned. Or not if I can't ring the bell. Have a good week.